So I want to comment a bit about the Windrush scandal, which has been pretty dominant in the headlines over the last week or so. British viewers will probably be aware of what I'm referring to. For those outside the UK, basically this has been a big scandal involving a generation of immigrants who came to this country who are British citizens, but due to a combination of red tape and other factors, have recently had their citizenship put into question by the bureaucracy, not morally, but in terms of, like I say, the paperwork. And this has caused a big scandal because it's created a great deal of anxiety and um, left British citizens feeling very vulnerable. So, why the Windrush scandal? Why is it referred to that? Well, the Empire Windrush was a vessel that brought the first group of West Indian, at least the first sizable group of West Indian migrants to this country in 1948, 70 years ago this year. It was a very important event in our history, and it was rightly one of those cultural things that was featured in Danny Boyle's London Olympics opening ceremony. The Windrush Generation, it goes without saying, helped to build this country. In 1948, we were still going through serious austerity, and there was a range of reasons why those people came. Partly, the government invited them because we needed that extra labour. We needed help to rebuild the country after the war, and also they were seeking a better life. Um, so the role that they've played is crucial. Now, I don't know what exactly has triggered this particular scandal in terms of how these people have been treated. I imagine, as so often is the case, a few cases have been highlighted, then it kind of spirals into a big, um, a big situation. But it is right that it is getting attention, and it's pretty disgraceful that this has happened. Um, I've just watched Prime Minister's questions from the 18th of April, and there was some pretty emotional, let's say, debate going on in this. This is an emotive subject because we're talking about British citizens. We're talking about people who have made their home here, who've been here for generations, and through no fault of their own have had their citizenship brought into question. The Prime Minister echoed the sentiments that these people are British citizens and that generation should be seen as such. But inevitably, it became a bit of a blame game. Jeremy Corbyn raised the case of one man who the Prime Minister said wasn't actually part of the Windrush generation, but he, despite being a taxpayer for years, had been denied medical care. Um, I don't want to go into all the ins and outs of the Windrush scandal because there's a lot of things going on. But certainly some of the reports, if they're true, are pretty shocking. Apparently, an elderly woman, for example, was held at Yarl's Wood Detention Centre for a significant period of time. Other British nationals have been held there. These are not illegal immigrants. These are not criminals. These are people who, through no fault of their own, through a breakdown in the system, have you know ended up in a situation where they've been humiliated and have faced a great deal of anxiety. David Lammy, the Labour MP, London Labour MP, he's pretty prominent because he's been outspoken on issues like knife crime. He made a pretty emotional response to the comments, and Labour have been particularly emotional on this. Yvette Cooper chaired a select committee which questioned the Prime Minister, questioned the Home Secretary Amber Rudd on the issue. But like I said, there was a bit of finger pointing going on at PMQs. Jeremy Corbyn was saying that it was on Theresa May's watch as Home Secretary. For her part, Theresa May said that it was in 2009 that I believe they're called landing papers. I'm not sure exactly what the document is, but that was brought in under a Labour Home Secretary, and I assume that would be Alan Johnson. Um, so unfortunately, it's become a bit of a blame game. What is irrefutable is that the system has failed these people, and to me, it's like the DWP. Now, the Home Office is a big department. It's one of the great offices of state. So I don't think you're ever going to have a situation where it's 100%, working like clockwork. there is a human factor, there is human error, but I think it's unacceptable that these people have been, put through so much anxiety. They're being asked to produce documents that they don't have. That sounds to me very much like the sort of bureaucracy that the DWP imposes on people. Telling disabled claimants that they've missed appointments when contractors haven't bothered to get in touch with them and things like that. Um, there needs to be an understanding that obviously, I mean, what the Prime Minister was referring to was that Labour was, I think there was a bit of, I sort of see both sides because on one hand, Corbyn was right to raise the human side of this, and he was right to point out that the Home Office on her watch has looked like it has become callous and heartless. I know of a lot of people who have really had to go through a lot to get residency here, although that's maybe detracting a bit from the Windrush issue. But without question, the Tory party has been nodding to, let's say, a right wing populism. Now, that's not coming from some sort of social justice warrior perspective. I do believe that we need to have um, an assertive and tough immigration system, but it shouldn't be at the price of being callous and allowing that bureaucracy to affect people who are playing by the rules and who are making, or contributing to this country. They are integrating, they are contributing to this country. I mean, Corbyn mentioned, for example, the Tories campaigning around Brent, telling illegal migrants to leave. Well, that reminds me a bit of, we will make the unemployed work for their money. I get it. People who are here illegally are breaking the law. They should be dealt with. But there is a very thin line between targeting those people who are playing by the rules and then getting into kind of collective stigmatization. And that's something I think the Tories need to be very careful about. We're an island nation. We're a densely populated country. We do need to be in control of immigration. But I think this scandal has shown that if it's not done properly, there can be a callousness there, and that's absolutely unacceptable. I can imagine the situation these people are in. They've been here for decades, and they're getting letters through their postbox saying you need to provide paperwork to show that you're a legal resident. I mean, that's going to create a huge amount of anxiety. It's going to create a lot of frustration, confusion, and in most cases, this is absolutely no fault. In fact, in every case regarding the Windrush generation, it's not their fault. It's bureaucracy and the breakdown of the system. So, on the other hand, I agree with the government in that Labour can't sort of use this as a way to detract from the real problem of illegal immigration, which is something that Corbyn will not give any assurance on. Although he pointed out this was about the Windrush generation, not about illegal immigration. So really, it comes down to the question of getting a balance. I think the government has been left red-faced by this. The Home Secretary has had to show a lot of humility when she was being questioned by Yvette Cooper in the Select Committee. There's been calls for Amber Rudd to resign over this. Um, to what extent is Labour responsible? Well, that's like Grenville. It's like the Grenville disaster. There's a lot of finger pointing. I think really there's collective responsibility. I think both Labour and the Conservatives probably take some responsibility for how this has been handled. But the Tories have been in power for 8 years. That's 8 years they've had to get this right. And it's disgraceful really that people have went through this. So yes, we need to be assertive. Yes, we need to deal with people who are breaking the law. But I find it very sad that this is really going to damage Britain's reputation in the Commonwealth, in countries such as St. Lucia, Antigua, Jamaica. And that's really unfortunate. In fact, Jeremy Corbyn quoted the Jamaican Prime Minister as saying there were people there who had been deported from the UK who had the legal right to stay in the UK. So that somewhat counters the Prime Minister's claim that no one has been deported so far. But these are claims and counterclaims, so who knows what the truth is. But it is very clear that there has been a massive blunder. And I hope every single member of the Windrush generation immediately, gets their own circumstances addressed. and that anxiety is taken away because it's disgraceful that they've went through this. Let me know your thoughts. The immigration system has to be tough, but it also has to be practical, and there has to be a human side to it. You know, it can't treat people like numbers. It has to look at each case on an individual basis, and not treat people like statistics. These are human beings we're talking about, and that's something I think Corbyn is right about. I think it's like the DWP. It probably, on some level, has become a bit cold and callous because there's been maybe too much of a focus on the illegal factor, which is very important. It's something that needs to be addressed, and it's something that Labour should not ignore. But this scandal has shown that also, without question, there's still racism out there. David Lammy was told by Twitter trolls, you as a black man should be grateful for living here. This is a man who was born in the UK and has served his constituency for years. So those people can go to hell. Unfortunately, there are racist knuckle dragging ignoramuses out there, and it's not particularly left wing to acknowledge that. It's just common sense. Let me know your thoughts. I don't know all the details of this, but clearly it has been handled badly, and I hope it gets resolved as soon as possible because I believe it will damage our international reputation.